What's going on, everybody? I hope you guys are doing well. I have what I believe, in my opinion, an interesting knife review, and it's not only on the knives you see before you, it's also about the company. I have a lot to say about them, and it's not all good, okay? But it's a lot of good. It's a lot of good. And I think this is a company that we need to support, okay? As knife people and users and everything else, this is a company I want to talk about. Okay, they have my interest, and here goes nothing. I have a lot to say, so I'm just going to get right into it. Spartan Blades, if you haven't heard of them, I doubt it at this point. Their name's pretty big. All right, spartanbladesusa.com was started by two men that were in the Army Special Forces. They were Green Berets. I've heard one of them. Their names are Curtis Iovito. It looks like Lavito, but it's an I, right? So every time you see it on the internet and everything else, it's Curtis Iovito and Mark Carey. They were both Green Beret snipers, and they retired from the military with over 20 years experience each, and they met in 1997. They were in from what I understand, a counterterrorism group in Southeast Asia. And they met in 97. They did some other traveling with the military. They were instructors in sniper school and stuff like that. And then retired and decided they wanted to be their own bosses. So awesome. Good for them. That's easier said than done, right? So what did they know most of their career as snipers? High-end precision firearms. That's what they knew, and that's what they could probably make money with, right? So they did some research and they talked to people and they weighed the pros and cons and things like that, and they found out that the liability insurance to manufacture firearms is outrageous. The lawyers are probably always trying to kill you as well, take all your money, I don't know. And Curtis had a really, really good analogy. He said, when you're in that business, it's a razor fight for a nickel. And that is probably the best way to put it. It's cutthroat. And that lowers your margins and everything else. If you're trying to, have a successful business and be your own boss. So what they ended up doing is they said, maybe we should make knives. Maybe we can make knives. Who should we talk to about making the best knives in the world? Well, whoever they talked to, they led them in the right direction. They told them to get a hold of Chris Reeve. Chris Reeve is one of the premier knife makers in the world, probably one of the most famous. Once you really get into the knife game, you start learning more about Chris Reeve, right? He is the standard for knives. And Curtis said he called Chris Reeve, called him personally. He answered and he said, hey, we want to make knives. Well, a lot of people call Chris Reeve and say they want to make knives. Can you help me? So he probably thought they were crazy, but he accepted their offer. They went there and stayed with Chris Reeve and met Ann Reeve and everything. Went through their whole manufacturing process, learned about the materials and everything they were using, and also the design. So in 2008, they started Spartan Blades. Okay, and they started in a pre-Civil War mule barn, is what Curtis calls it, and I think it was owned by Mark Carey. I don't know. They were in Aberdeen, North Carolina. Okay, so they started small, and they're still a very small company relative to others out there, but they just do an amazing job. So hear me out. So they said, we're going to make knives for military, police, special forces, things like that. Well, they found out that military, police, and special forces is only like 20% of your business, 15, 20%. So 80% of the market out there is not police, military, and everything else. So if you want to make money, you probably have to offer these to the other 80% of people, is the way Curtis put it. And I listened to a couple podcasts about these guys. Really, really cool. So Curtis, in my opinion, is more of the face of the company. He said him and Mark are very different people, but they blend well together. Curtis is always the person, it seems like, that does interviews at the knife shows, the podcast. I know Mark has done one podcast, but And then Mark is, I think, more of a numbers guy, does a lot of administrative stuff for the company and everything else. And they're extremely active. There's only 6 people right now in 2020 working in this building. 6 people, including the owners. And I think 3 or 4 of them have 20 plus years experience in the military, which is awesome. So I digress. So they talked to Chris Reeve. Then they talked about design, right? Because you can't just draw a knife and be like, that's what I want to do. There's a lot to it. So they got a hold of this guy. You may or may not know him, William Harsey, one of the most legendary knife designers in the world. One of his most famous knives is the, offered to the public through Chris Reeve. It's called the Green Beret. But to Army Special Forces, they graduate, they get a knife, a fixed blade knife. It is a beast. It's called the Yarborough, and they're all serialized with their numbers on them. It's really, really cool. So William Harsey, so they got a hold of Chris Reeve and William Harsey, 2 of the best people that you could possibly talk to about making knives. And they said at first they didn't make a huge profit or anything else, and it was a little rocky, but they just persisted and moved forward, and they were consistent, with their efforts. And eventually they came out with this. This is the Spartan Harsey folder. Some people call it the SHF for short. This knife, not exactly this model, but with the colors and everything, but this design knife in 2016 won American Made Knife of the Year at the Blade Show, which is pretty incredible because there are tons of vendors there and custom knife makers and everything, and the people there do the voting. So they, you can't vote for yourself, but all the people there vote for the best American Made Knife of the Year, and they voted the Spartan Harsey the winner, which is awesome. I think that's so awesome. So the first time I saw one of these knives was in 2018 at GP Knives in Troy, Illinois. I saw one on Instagram before, but the first one I held was at GP Knives. I'm like, can you take that out of, the case? I really want to hold that. And it had the Statue of Liberty on it or something like that, something patriotic and cool. Now they make 4 of these knives a year, and then next year they're going to design 4 new ones. Okay, so it's the same base model and materials, but they have a little bit different design on all of them. So I picked up this knife, and they're like, it's $525, and I was like, ooh, give me a Chris Reeve for $450, because I don't know anything about this company, and I was naive or ignorant about it, and I'd been saving up for a while, and I bought my first in Cozy, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite knives. But I put this in the case. I didn't really think about it anymore. I sent some pictures to my friends and said, man, check out this knife. It's freaking awesome. I sent them pictures and said, have you ever held one of these, or have you ever owned one or anything? And they said, no, but I've heard a lot about them. They seem like a pretty cool company, started by Special Forces. They're selling, people in the military probably use their fixed blades. The Harkos is given to West Point graduates, which is really, really cool. I think that's awesome that they designed it for West Point. And yeah, I just didn't think too much more about it. And I came across this one through a knife group. It's like brand new, has a factory edge. I don't think the guy ever used it. His name was Clark. Good dude. I ordered this from him. He sent it from Virginia. I live south of St. Louis. And I guess he wrote my address wrong. It went back to Virginia. It was like torture. I've been wanting to hold this thing for 2 years, and went back to him. Then he shipped it back to me, and he was honest about it. He's like, I apologize. I wrote it wrong. But the knife is in great condition, just as he said it was. And I pulled it out of the box. Super excited about it. Looks amazing. Felt amazing. The thumb studs are phenomenal. Way better than Chris Reeve, in my opinion. Absolutely love it. Flipped it open. Awesome action. Love it. But I look at certain things when I take a knife out of the box, right? I think we all do, especially as knife people. Is the blade centered? Is the detent pretty solid? Yeah. Does it flip open nice? Yes, like butter. Amazing. But here's the problem, right? Here's the problem I ran into. When I went to open it, it was traveling like that. So it wasn't really traveling, right? The lock bar, I don't know. It might have been traveling 10%, something like that. So I was initially I was mad about it because I had been looking at this knife for 2 years, been reading about them and everything else, and then it went from Virginia and back around St. Louis, and I'm just like, man, what the heck? And I was concerned about it. I asked the guy I bought it from, and he said it seems fine to him. I asked one of my knife buddies, and he said it seems fine to him. A lot of different knife manufacturers have different philosophies about the lock face and everything else. Over time, this lock bar will probably move in, right? Over time, which is fine. But I was concerned about it. So I went against everybody's advice and I emailed Spartan Blades. And I'm like, I want to see what this company's about. This is where the rubber meets the road. I've been waiting for this knife. I saved up for it. I bought it. And I was a little concerned about that lock bar. And I had never really heard anybody complain about it before. And I've read tons of reviews about these knives. People love them. And I got an email very quickly from Kim at Spartan Blades. And I'm going to say right now, Curtis and Mark, if you are listening, you need to give Kim a raise because she won me over. Kim really made me a fan of Spartan Blades and made me a lifelong customer. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now. So she replied and said, we would be glad to address it if you could send us a picture or video of what's going on. So I just sent her a video, of the knife locking and everything. And I just said, I'm really concerned about it. It doesn't seem normal. I'm used to a Chris Reeve and Cozy, where it seems like the lock bar travels 10 feet. It goes across the whole tang. But maybe they have a different philosophy. I said, if this isn't normal, can you please fix it? If it is normal, just let me know. Because I didn't feel really good about it. So she responded, said, I showed the guys the video. They think it would be a warranty repair. We would be glad to take care of it for you. And we can turn it around in 24 hours. I'm like, what? So she said, just send your knife to this address. The co-owner, Mark Carey, said he would be glad to reimburse you for your shipping if you send us the receipt for that as well. What? So they said they're going to pay for me to ship this knife to them. They're going to reimburse me with a personal check. And then they are going to turn this knife around in 24 hours and ship it straight back to me. There's 6 people working. They have tons of knives out. And that's the kind of service I felt like I was their only customer, right? That's the goal. I felt like I was their only customer. So phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So I shipped it over. I did not ask them to pay my shipping. I didn't even send them my receipt because I feel like that's asking too much. They're already helping me out and everything, and the response is incredible. So I sent it over to them. I watched the tracking. I saw it was delivered to them. Next day, sure thing. Kim sends me tracking. I get another notification from Mark Carey with the USPS tracking number, say using 2-day priority. Shipped it back, pulled it out of the box. Amazing, right? So now we're probably looking at, I don't know if you can really see it, but we're probably looking at a 40% lock bar travel, and that is good. That is solid. I am happy. They sent this knife with a package that was a little bit bigger than expected for a knife, right? So I'm like, what is going on? And they sent me this. Check this out. I love it. I just had to pull this out of the laundry because I've been wearing it. Check this out. Spartan Blades USA. Freaking love it. So you can't win me over with a t-shirt, but with an amazing product and customer service, you can win me over and have me as a lifelong customer. And that's what you guys have done. So amazing, right? So I had this knife and I was really happy about it. And now I want to look into their other products, right? Now I'm interested because this company backs their product. And this is the kind of company I want to support, right? It's people that served their country for over 20 years. They start this company. Everything is sourced out of the United States to make this thing. They're supporting their own country that they served. And now they're backing their product with impeccable customer service. Why would you not want to support them? Okay. So Obviously, this knife is amazing. But in January, I saw this knife, right? And I thought, man, that's the knife I want. That's my next grail. So I'm going to save up for it and everything else. It's out of stock. I talked to Spartan Blades. I talked to GP Knives. I talked to Smoky Mountain Knife Company, I think, and nobody has it. Completely out of stock everywhere. And Spartan Blades said they're going to make another batch. They can make one and send it to me if I want to buy it from them. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep an eye out for the meantime. Well, one night at 11 o'clock at night, I got on Blade HQ, and this baby was in stock. Could not believe it. And I was like, this is a lot of money. I really don't need to spend it. I just got this check from Trump. And, luckily I am working at home, so I'm in a good position as far as that goes. I really don't need to spend this stimulus check, but I guess that is the intention of the stimulus check, to stimulate the economy. So I talked myself into it. So I said, I'm going to go to sleep tonight. If this is in stock tomorrow, then I'll go ahead and order it. So I came in the next morning, sat at my desk, got on Blade HQ. It was in stock, and I ordered it. So I was really, really anticipating this. I was worried about the lock bar. I'll be honest. I was worried about the lock bar because of this experience I've had here. But pulled this thing out. It was even more smooth than the 2019 Compass. This is the 2020 Spartan Harsey. There's his signature there, William Harsey, USA S35 VN steel. Wonder where they got that material from, right? CPM, but Chris Reeve probably suggested that, and William Harsey. So unbelievable. From what I understand, a lot of the color scheme, the design, and everything on this knife was actually strongly suggested from Matt at Cutting Edge Gear. So awesome job, Matt. I absolutely love this knife. This is currently my favorite knife, and that is saying a lot, guys. So Cutting Edge Gear, check him out on Instagram, Facebook, and everything. He's got some awesome stuff, and he's a really good guy to connect with, really good guy to chat with and everything. So let's do some comparisons with some other knives. Since Chris Reeve was a mentor to Curtis and Mark, let's put some of their knives up there. Okay. Their knives are unbelievable. These Chris Reeve knives obviously are some of the best in the world. These are the standard, and this is my favorite knife. And that's saying a lot, guys. So Chris Reeve is my favorite knife before these. This is my favorite knife. And then the Incosi, and then probably the Starbenza. I don't know. So let's talk about the specs now that I'm like 20 minutes in. So overall, this Spartan Harsey folder is 8.94 inches long. The blade is 4 inches. The cutting edge is 3.75. The thickness on the blade is 0.154. So 0.154. It is a thick hunk of metal, guys. S35 VN steel. So this is the Incosi. This is probably one of the most robust folders that I have. And when we put them next to each other, look how blocky this thing is. It's awesome. I love the thumb studs on the Spartan Harsey. Better than Chris Reeve. They're ergonomic. They feel great. Okay, so it's a hunk of metal. The Incosi is 4.9 ounces. And the Spartan Harsey is 5.8. If you don't like a big knife, if you don't like a heavy knife in your pocket, then you might not want to get one of these, right? They do have some other options that I would look at on their website, but we have titanium scales, titanium hardware, titanium pocket clip. I believe this is DLC coated. I have knocked off some of it. I've been using this a lot. I've had this in my pocket nonstop for I think about 2 weeks or just over 2 weeks, and it's already getting this really cool patina from the anodized titanium. And the symbols on here are Icelandic runes and staves. So these symbols are from a very, very early people. and they can bring you good fortune and all kinds of things like that. Like this, I believe, is called the Vigvisir. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Vigvisir, you can Google it. And this is like their compass, and it's supposed to keep you from getting lost in bad weather and everything else, to bring you the right direction, which is cool. And I think this is to give you good fortune, maybe during war. I mean, they all have different symbols. And there was actually, I'm 90% sure, there was a little handout that came in the box, and I cannot find it. But this is awesome. I mean, so this is a deep laser etch. I don't know if you can hear this. It actually gives a little more purchase on these smooth titanium scales. So all this engraving here with the deep laser etch gives you a little grip. That's pretty cool. So obviously you have very aggressive jimping. Right here is very aggressive. More here and underneath. I love a grippy knife or a gun or anything like that. I love the jimping. And like I said, it is very aggressive. If you have soft hands, you're not going to like this knife. Okay, at least right here. I mean, it's going to give you a solid purchase and a good grip. All right. So I was actually admiring this knife and looking it over, and I was kind of noticing like I got some dust and stuff like that inside the knife. And when I did, look what I found. This is icing on the cake, guys. And I think it was suggested by Cutting Edge Gear. So thank you, Mark and Curtis, for taking this suggestion, because this was exciting for me. There is a quote etched inside of my knife, and it's not in English. So I had to translate it. It's like, you know, it's awesome. So it's in Icelandic, and what the quote pretty much says, the rough translation is, I don't quit when I'm tired. I don't quit when I'm tired. I quit when I'm finished. And I love that. And it's inside my knife. There is a quote inside my knife. So I think that is just the coolest thing. I don't know if you can see that, but I like went in the other room to tell my wife, I'm like, there's a quote in my knife, and I get to Google it and translate it. Awesome. Such a good idea. Oftentimes you will find this symbol here that I was speaking about earlier, and that quote will be wrapped around it. You'll see that online. I did some research, but let's look at this. It's just awesome, guys. Okay. So I bought this knife from Spartan Blades. Why does the box say Pineland Cutlery 2019? Because now Spartan Blades is a division of Pineland Cutlery. So what they're doing, guys, because a lot of people have the same reaction I did. They're like, you know, this is $525. You know, give me something I can afford and use and things like that and not worry about it. So what they're doing is they're coming out with a silver line of knives. They are collaborating with K-Bar in New York, and they're making a silver line of knives where everything is made in the USA, and they're going to be more affordable. So check that out, Pineland Cutlery, and you know, it's the same company. They're in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Spartan Blades, same company, but now they're offering a line of knives that are a little more affordable, which is great. They're also going to have a bronze line. This one was a little bit shocking to me. It is actually manufactured outside of the United States. So from my understanding, that is the first product that these guys have ever offered outside of the United States. And it's going to be a little bit lower than the silver line. So I think people that are the huge Spartan Blade fans, and I have one of their fixed blades, the Phrike, Phrike, on the way right now. It's been local for 2 days with the post office, and they lost it or something, and I was supposed to have it on this review, but I have it actually for home defense as a backup to my pistol, and it's called the Phrike, and it is not a silver or bronze line knife. Okay, let me be clear on that, but it is a small to medium sized fixed blade, and it is amazing. It's the Phrike. So the Spartan Blades, obviously they have Greek names for all their knives, which is really, really cool. I love that. So keep an eye out for the Spartan Blades K-Bar line, right? They have a silver line, a bronze line, and overall, I'm really, really happy with this knife. This is my favorite knife right now, and I plan on just continuing to carry it. So normally I would complain that it doesn't have a deep carry, but I don't care, right? It has a huge lanyard hole. You could put some cordage through there. But you guys have done really, really well on making a right-handed integral lock or a frame lock user-friendly for a southpaw. And I think that's amazing. I haven't seen anybody do that. Like I had a ZT0452CF, which is a right-handed frame lock like this. And you hit the frame lock so the detent is pressing into the blade and you're not able to actually open it easily. And a lot of times with a right-handed knife, you're going to see a lot of space right here, and even a groove looks great for a right-handed person. You flip it over and you're a southpaw, they have no groove, there's no space right here, you're pressing into the lock bar. It's horrible. So I don't know if anyone working at Spartan Blades is a lefty, but thank you for thinking about that. Or if that was Bill Harsey, thank you for thinking about that. So works absolutely phenomenal for a left-handed person. Solid lock. This knife is just a beast, guys. I've been cutting everything with it for 2 weeks, and it is still just super sharp. I touched it up one time on the Spyderco Sharp Maker with the fine rods for about maybe a couple minutes. I mean, did not spend a lot of time, and this thing is a razor blade. It will shave hair off of my arm. So I'm very, very impressed with the knife, the company, the people. I'm really impressed with the people. They make you feel like you're the only customer that they have, and they have thousands of customers. It's just phenomenal. They do an amazing job. So overall, I'm a customer for life. I'm going to have 3 Spartan Blade knives coming up soon. Pros and cons: customer service, design, material, awesome knife. Okay. Some of the cons that I want to nitpick is like that stop pin right there is exposed and it doesn't match anything on the knife. I think it would be really cool if it was, just concealed or just hidden between the scales here, but it's not the end of the world. It's just, these are designer things. It's not functionality. Okay. Also, like the space for the pocket clip, is bigger than the pocket clip. Little minor things, it's not a big deal at all, but I have to mention it because to me it is a con. These are very, very expensive. I don't necessarily want to say that's a con because I know the enormous amount of work put into these. Same thing with, there's 1.5 hour long videos of how Chris Reeve makes a knife, and that's probably not even half of what they have to do for the knife, right? So I understand these are very, very expensive knives, $525, but you're getting this touch, you get a quote inside, deep laser etch. To me, this is the model. This is the one, the bronze, the black, everything. Customer service, amazing. So I'm just going to end it there, guys. So if you are thinking about buying a knife from Spartan Blades, stop thinking. Just do it. Just do it. Because this is a kind of company that's going to back their product. They're going to support you as the customer, and they're going to take care of you, hands down. So there's nothing to think about. So hope you guys enjoyed this review. Hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and have yourselves a good rest of the day. Thanks for watching.